The hour of 6:30 has arrived. I'd like to start this study session of Urbana School District 116. Roll call, please.
Member Hall,
Here.
Member Orr,
Here.
Member Ogalski,
Here.
Member Carter is here, and President Pulaski.
Here, are there any additions, corrections, or modifications to tonight's agenda? None? Citizen statements. Are there any citizens here present who wish to make a statement before the board? Seeing none, there is no call for an executive session after tonight's meeting. Is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? First up tonight on our agenda is policy review, Press Plus issue 109.
Okay. So, you have, do the board members all have copies, Lori? No, you have it electronically. The 109 review. I only want to highlight a couple of items toward the front, the school code changes, and then we do have a like 3 questions that we need to respond to. So first, I did just want to let the board know that we are required to appoint a DCFS liaison at the beginning of the school year. In the past, that has been Dr. Franklin, but now, because Mrs. Norton is involved in those decisions and conversations at the building level as the supervisor for many of our administrators, we are switching our DCFS district liaison to Mrs. Norton. So that is a change for the board. I also wanted to highlight Todd. I know we have 2 special ed related school code changes, so I thought this one about residential placement was a little confusing, so I thought Todd could share just a little light on it because we do not have press materials for it yet.
Right. So basically, this last spring, there are some legislative changes made to make it a bit easier to find residential placement for students who need them. So districts can, in an emergency basis, place kids in a non-ISBE approved placement. Quite honestly, though, the vetting process for that is very similar to what ISBE goes through in terms of them having appropriate facilities and staff and that kind of thing. So if we ever were going to place a student, we would have to go through a vetting process, get approved by ISBE, and then the student would be able to go to that residential placement.
Any questions about that for Todd? That was very new for us too. And then, of course, the last policy here about the use of isolated timeout and physical restraint, which we have been very involved in that ever since the, what was the report that came out? I forget.
Yeah, the ProPublica report that came back in
ProPublica, thank you.
2019.
And we submitted our own plan to ISBE, and I was going to have Todd share a little bit about that process as well.
Yeah, so this optional policy would apply to a school district that would choose to prohibit the use of isolated timeout, and physical restraint in the hopes of not having to submit a plan to ISBE, but part of that is also not having an incident of isolated timeout, physical restraint in the last 3 years. That is not us in Urbana. And so I did present the reduction plan in June, and it was approved by ISB in July.
Okay, any questions for Todd? All right, so I am going to just jump right into our specific policies that do have a question that we need board input on. As you see, we have several 5-year review updates. We're going through those carefully. If you had any questions about the 5-year reviews, let us know. Thank you, Mr. Ogalski. Board Member Ogalski found one gender-specific policy that had not been updated, so we're going through, as those 5 years, as we've said as a board, we're going through and making sure we catch the pronouns that say the he, him, she, her, and changing those to they. So we're trying to catch those wherever we can in our 5-year review updates. Shifting to our questions. So our very first question, which I just put on the board's radar. I know we've had this discussion in the past. We made a decision as the board made a decision not to limit public comment, but there is a question 2230 public participation in school board meetings. So the question is, would the board like to establish a maximum time limit for public participation? So I'll just kind of open it up if anybody, we've discussed this, and in the past, we decided we would not want to do that. We have a 5-minute, right now we have a 5 minute limit for public comments. But this is more so talking about the public participation segment of our board agenda, if we want to limit it to 60 minutes.
Board members, any opinions you wish to express on the matter?
My personal opinion would be not to limit. We already have taken away the email possibility. So if we have more than 60 minutes worth of people who have given up their time to come talk to us, I think we should listen.
I think we should be able to have the right to have like a cutoff period, personally, like the city council does and other board members around us, because there have been times when we have sat here for over 2 hours listening to public comment. I don't mean to squelch public comment. I think it's very, very important, but oftentimes people might have a lot to say about the same subject, which is important. We need to hear it, but I also think that we need to set some kind of limit on this, because otherwise we could have a lot of late nights.
Anyone else?
I understand that sentiment, and I sat and thought about this for a while too, but I think in the interest of being as open as we can for public comment, I mean, the majority of the time that we have meetings, they're like tonight, you know, we don't have that many. The times when we do have 90-minute, 2-hour sessions is when the public is really impassioned about something, and that's the very time when I don't want us to be seen to limit people's comment. But I agree with you, Brenda, there's lots of times when people need to consolidate, and I think that we've tried to address that in the past by saying, if you've got similar views, could you combine? And we've seen people do that. I feel like codifying it could cause more problems than it's worth for the rare times when we do have people who come and want to speak to us. And making efforts like putting up a timer on the wall and asking people to combine comments if they care to, or come back another day, kind of addresses it without needing to put it in writing. So I'm kind of on the, I would like to keep it to 5 minutes, but not actually codify it beyond that.
I think the other thing that maybe, I don't know whether we could arrange or not, is maybe not to have so many issues on the agenda if we know it's going to be something, but I do know we have to get these issues done. So
Sure.
I guess what I'm saying is maybe we could have a continuation of, you know, it would be a lot for board members, but if we did want to sit here and listen to the public's opinion, which we do want to hear their opinion, but maybe we could put some other things for like a different night from the admin or something like that, and have a continuance of that. That's what I'm talking about, because I think it's very important that we hear from the public, but I also, I'm like you, I think the timer on the wall is a great thing that helps, and I think trying to combine things, you know, people can add their own if it's something different or something like that, but I also think that it's up to us to kind of set how we want this to go so we don't run into any problems down the road. And I'm not saying public comment is a problem. I'm not saying that at all. What I am saying, though, is we need to set the precedent for future boards. So we need to really think about this and how we can come to an agreement on some kind of rules or set agenda for public comment.
Go ahead, Robbie.
I would take a very differing opinion on this, and I think public comment, and both from the parents as well as the community, is very vital for the school district, and we should not be suppressing that by putting any time limits on it. And I also would say, by editing Board Policy 230 It's actually an opportunity to bring back the emailing of the public comments. As once we made that decision at the June meeting, there's been plenty of comments I have heard about how that is what it looks like we're doing, is we're trying to limit the voice of the community. So if you don't want to limit the voice of the community, you would welcome back those things. And maybe on the email side, because it's really easy to be sitting in your armchair at home and just spit off 500 emails to the school board. I understand that. But perhaps we could say, like, each person has an email limit per year on the number of times they can do that, or something like that, if you want to try to do that. But I think bringing back electronic submissions would be a good idea to keep the voice of the public present in our decision making.
Yes, I agree that we need to keep the voice, but I also think that we need to be able to set a precedent on how we want our meetings to be ran, so, by still being transparent.
Well, I mean, when you read it, you know, the wording of it kind of covers a lot of our bases already. It says that, you know, we do have, the board president may allow the person to speak for more than 5 minutes. They can address, if multiple individuals want to do it at the same time, they are encouraged to appoint a spokesperson, which we've seen people do successfully. But also it says the president has the authority to shorten comment when needed and determine procedural matters regarding to public participation not otherwise covered. I can't remember if this is specifically covered in our board policy, but if it isn't, that's kind of an umbrella thing there to, you know, in certain special circumstances that I think would give us cover. I don't know.
I mean, the only thing I would be concerned about in terms of just logistics of running a meeting would be if, you know, like 200 or 300 organized people came in to try to filibuster us from being able to do anything. And that's, you know, that's really unlikely and never
I see
happen.
what you're saying.
It'd be more likely to happen over email if we got doxxed or something from a national organization than
And that has happened.
That has happened, yep.
than it would be for to be done with a physical public comment. I'm personally I'm not in favor of putting any sort of time limit on in-person public comment.
So I'm hearing
As a result.
4 no's, 1 yes. Laura?
I'm also not in favor. I think that oftentimes those that are coming in to speak, this might be the first day, week, you know, that they've come, the issue has come before them. So I think it is important to, you know, maintain that ability for anyone and everyone, the opportunity to have, you know, time to speak. So I'm not in favor for adding a time limit to the.
So you're saying as the same, you're saying 5 minutes, yes, but general overall.
Yes, but I think trying to say like we have a hard stop at 2 hours for public comment.
Sure.
Is not the way to go. I think if we want to hard stop other things that we are personally doing, and maybe that's
Yes.
different, but like
Yeah.
the public comment
Gotcha.
piece is that's that open door that we don't want to, you know, we need to keep it that way and let people, even if they're coming to it for the first time, maybe repeat and have the opportunity to speak.
Right. Let me just clarify, I wasn't saying a hard time limit for the 2 hours for public comment. Remember, or I was just saying we have sat here before, which has been fine. But I would appreciate it if admin is able to rearrange other things on our agenda. So
Yes, and
let
we
me
can
make
do that
myself
one day.
clear about that, because I don't want any miscommunication.
Absolutely, that is something we can do when we know or anticipate. I think we get a good sense from the emails that are sent out to the board. We can kind of gauge when we're gonna have a heavy public comment night. So if there's something we need to move off that agenda and move it to another agenda, I think we can do, except for, of course, the topic, which is, everyone is most interested in, but.
Of course, if there's a time limit on something, because oftentimes we have a time limit on things that we need to either approve
Oh, sure.
or things like that. So those things
Absolutely.
we still do need to keep on the agenda.
Okay, so based on feedback I'm hearing from the board, we are going to be responding to this question with a no, that we are not interested in limiting, public comment to 60 minutes. All right, our next question is about court duty and jury duty. This is a section, a specific section from our collective bargaining agreement. So we have 2 questions around applying our language not only to licensed staff, but also to education, ESP, educational support personnel. Angie, did you want to add anything else? This is usually covered by HR.
Yeah, the HR department, I think the administrative team and the school board would agree that any staff member, not just licensed or educational support staff, if any of our staff members are covered for jury duty, we would prefer to pay them despite their position.
Great.
Okay, so you have to agree or disagree with that.
So the board, there's two specific questions. Would the board like to apply this language to both licensed and ESP staff?
Yes.
Yes.
I think there's a general
Yep.
agreement here.
Okay, perfect. So we will move forward with that. And then the last question is in regard to policy 7285. If the board remembers, we adopted 7270, which was the undesignated injector inhalers for administering medicine to students. So we adopted that policy. So the question is, has the board adopted the policy, which is a yes. I checked in with our district nurse, Nurse Amy, and all the other parameters around the policy are also being met. She has a process for reaching out to the teachers who have students who might be utilizing our undesignated injectors and inhalers. So we satisfy basically all the other parameters around the policy related to this. So unless there's specific questions, I think this is a yes for us as well. Okay. So if there are other questions, this will be back on the board agenda for the business meeting for approval. It is due at the end of the month, so this is one of those time-sensitive things, Brenda, that we have to make sure that we get approval for by the end of September. So it will be on the business meeting for action.
Okay, great. Thank you. Student ambassador report.
Hello, hey everybody. I know it's been a minute, but I'm still actively doing my job. Just to let you know, I still am, and I still love it. So let's get started. The first concern, well, it's not really, it's a concern, but I have seen improvement for lunch. I remember last year I did have students that were saying, they had concerns for lunch, but ever since then there have been improvements in, the temperature of it and the quality. But there have been concerns of there not being enough main entrees, so many students would be first in line, but still are not able to get the main entree because they just run out and they have to just go with something else or not get anything at all. And, that can be very problematic for those students that waited a long time in line just to be told or rejected and told that there's not enough. Continuing on with the UHS parking lot, I don't know if you've ever been there, but it can get a little hectic out in the parking lot very fastly. After school, you're ready to go, but it's a lot of things going on. And so I will be talking with Principal Nance and possibly about, a possible way of redirection of the parking lot because it's again, very hard a lot of days, especially on Fridays, to leave the school when there's a lot of things going on. Continuing on, I do have shout outs to many of the great staff members of the Urbana School District. I've been talking to my students at the Urbana Neighborhood Connection Center, and a lot of them have said they love their brand new teachers and they're doing a great job of building relationships with them, and they always look forward to the next day of going back to school. So that's my report. Thank you.
Before you move on, Paul, I did share, Katie, with Michael when I saw his report that we had a meeting this afternoon, very timely, with Arbor. And one of the items that we discussed is the quality of the food at UHS, the amount of food at UHS. And just so board members know, they are experiencing staffing issues as the rest of the world is. So we have some very specific requests, like we want to see the deli reopened. We were also aware that they've been running out of food 6 hour, are you talking about 6 hour lunch? So we were aware of that. We've had to make some significant changes in terms of flow. A lot of students are getting used to using IDs again because for the last 2 years, we did not, since COVID, students have not had to type in their ID numbers or use their barcode scanned IDs because everybody just was a tally mark. And so now we had to go back to our, just so the student ambassadors are aware as well, we had to go back to using your ID or your student number. If you remember last year, you didn't have to do that at all. It was just you took your lunch, you went through the line. So the lines have been longer because that has slowed things down a little bit. So we're aware. We appreciate you bringing it to the board's attention to Michael and the public. And Katie works directly with Mrs. Rowland, works directly with Arbor. And so any feedback that I know Parker lunch is also one of his areas of concern. So if you guys continue to hear from students, please bring us feedback, especially as you see change, like positive changes, hopefully soon, and let us know. We would like to hear that. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much, guys. Our first administrative report, our only administrative report tonight, is the 6-day student enrollment report from Kim.
Good evening, everyone. So tonight I'm sharing an update on 6-day enrollment, and this was shared in the board packet. But overall, we are rebounding from the pandemic as we see an increase in our enrollment. Last year we were at 4,000 overall for kindergarten through 12th, and now we're at 4,124. Factoring in pre-K, our total enrollment is 4,379. Our only schools that are down a little bit from last year would be UECS is down 24, Thomas Paine is down 19, and UMS is down 10 as of right now. Things have slowed down a little bit. It's been pretty busy, just and steady as school started, and so we're starting to see things plateau a little bit at this time. Thank you.
Next up are our public hearings. So these are required for certain items we do during the year. We open the floor up for public petitioners and comment on these items. So I'd like to open the public hearing for the fiscal year 23 student district budget. Does anyone here present petitioner wish to address the board on the budget? Will I please recognize, I'm guessing it's Yuri? Yeah, just tap it once. There you go. Good to go.
Can you hear me well?
Maybe a little bit closer, maybe.
What about now? Very good. Okay, my name is Yuri Baryshnikov. You probably heard from me a lot. Some of you know me personally. And as you probably know, I'm quite critical about the situation in this district. I think this district spends a lot per students, much more than our neighboring districts. And we're performing much worse than neighboring districts. We're performing awfully by any metric. Illinois is no shining star in the nation. And the US is no shining star in the world. Our district is abysmal, even at the Illinois background. Like, there was a flyer asking people to help with the volunteers. They're quoting that the less than 6% of the people, of the kids in 3rd grade are reading at the level. I mean, it's atrocious. At the ground of spending a lot per child. And yeah, obviously we want to look into solutions. I mean, I'm a solution guy. I like process. I like things to be done. But to do that, we need numbers. We need to understand where the money is spent, what goes wrong, what goes well. The district is systematically blocking our access to numbers. Not a single attempt to get any of them, any data, is going straight forward. They're always telling us to file a FOIA. They always produce some PDFs where the spreadsheets is the original document. So, yeah, and I understand. All organizations try to protect their data. I know that. I was a boss. There is an urge, definitely we want to release. I also understand that some of the urge is ideological. I read, I don't know if Dr. Vimos is around, I read his lovely thesis where he really drives the point that you don't have the drive to fly by the numbers. You have to fly by the stories. So a lot of that is there. But by and large, this district is not run well. The budgetary discipline is not there. Again, big picture is completely unmistakable. We spend a lot, and this money are disappearing somehow, somewhere. And it's impossible to know where. The budget, as it presented, is again this PDF, impossible to search, a lot of misprints. And it's not our job to audit this budget. It should be presented in a way it's easy to access. At least give us the spreadsheets so we can analyze that. It's not happening. And again, maybe some of that is, some of the money are going bad in systemic ways. Maybe some money is going just to build a patronage. I don't know. It's hard to say. There is a bad habit is observed that a lot of money would go to help the people who are worst off in this town, in this district, are being spent on strange, items. Like last year, a grant was allocating $80,000 to help kids in homeless families. Out of that, 55 went to salary of some guy to help spend this money. Is this the right way? I don't know. It was never discussed. This year in the bad budget, there is like $180,000 or so allocated for the mentorship program, of which 155 or so goes to director and coordinator of mentorship program. I mean, I have no idea. Is this justified or not? The board should be into it, and I don't see the board being actively working on that. How do I know that? Because we are asking the questions all the time, and we're getting zero reaction from the board. So the board in general does not react well. So last year it was absolutely heartbreaking, like tearing scene of the high schoolers coming here and complaining about sexual harassment. And President Pelosi said, yeah, we hear you, come and tell us. They came and told you. It was discussed once in these meetings? I don't think so. You forgot about it. So I don't have high hopes about my plea to you to stop the waste, to address the problems of this district in serious material way. I don't have high hopes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brishikov. Does anyone else wish? Please, Ms. Kantovarts.
My name is Ruth Kantorowicz, and I have a few questions about the budget. Move it, which way? Closer. Yeah. So my first couple of questions are about the budget assumptions. In item 9, it says that there's a new administrative position. It's called Executive Director of Secondary Multilingual and Alternative Inclusion Programs. And my first question about that is that this administrative position seems redundant, since we already have a Director of Multilingual Program and we have a Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. So in addition, there is no other director position that is split between two positions, one for elementary and one for secondary. So if we start splitting the multilingual one, are we going to start splitting also the other like curriculum instructions and student services? The second is that last year there was a new administrative position that it was a DI director, and that pushed the administrative costs, the increase in administrative costs, over the 5% limit. This was discovered much later in the semester, and then we had to file a petition to avoid penalties. This year we should be more responsible. So I was wondering if the financial officer can give the public, can tell the public what is the administrative cost increase for this year. It's not in the budget. My second question regarding that, the assumptions in the for the budget, is the increase in the administrative costs. So there's a salary increase that matches the teacher salary increase, and that assumption doesn't seem appropriate. Now, the teacher salary is part of the collective bargaining agreement, and it includes the increases that you give the teachers for completing coursework. Now, the administration salaries are not part of the collective bargaining agreement. So our administrative cost, if we look compared to the rest of Illinois, our cost per student for the administration is in the top 20%, and we're a small district. We're an average-sized district, I guess. And our administrators are being paid well above the average in Illinois, while the teachers are paid well below the average in Illinois. So for this reason, the average salary increase for the administration should be lower than that of the teachers. We shouldn't just automatically match it to what the teachers already bargained with the union. Okay. My next question is about the two items that seem to be unexplained on the budget. One on page 63, it's under Empower Grant. It gives $170,000 to school improvement and instructional material for Dr. Williams, and only for that elementary school. And on page 118, there's a building improvement expense for Lille that is well above everybody else's. It's $275,000 compared to other elementary schools that got at most $25,000. And given those two elementary schools that got singled out in those unexplained expenses, one might wonder if it's related to the topic that was discussed last year, which was a dual language program. Is it so is this a part of the plan for to prepare the Lille school to turn into a dual language school and swap the student population between Lille and Dr. Williams? There's no explanation in the budget telling what those big numbers are. Well, thank you very much. I was told that there was no time limit for this, but I guess there is. Thank you.
Sorry if that was a miscommunication, but the rules for public hearings are the same as for public comment. But if you have more you wish to and more questions to ask, please feel free to email them if you haven't already, and we will work on getting them answered. Does anybody else wish to petition the board in this particular public hearing? Hearing none, the public hearing is closed. Okay, item 10.2 is a public hearing for the fiscal year 23 adult education budget. To open that public hearing for the adult education budget. Does anyone wish to present for a petition for the adult education budget? Going once, twice, 3 times? Seeing none, to close the public hearing for the fiscal year 23 adult education budget. We have 2 study topics on tonight's agenda. The first is our diversity, equity, and inclusion update. Dr. Caffey.
Okay, while Dr. Caffey is coming forward, I know many of our board members had commitments or were unable to attend opening day. So we thought it would be great to share with you the update that our staff received on opening day, as well as some additional information that Dr. Caffey has to share about the equity audit.
Good evening. Y'all kind of dry tonight, huh? Well, thank you for having me. Again, I've been invited to kind of share the update that I gave on opening day with our entire school district. And so the title of our theme for opening day was Equity in Action. And you can move to the next slide. Okay. So the first thing I wanted to make sure that everyone in the school district is aware of our equity audit that we have began with Dr. Yvette Dubiel. And so as many of you are aware, it is a 5-phase equity audit. The first phase of the equity audit was completed on June 15th with the district equity leadership team. And on the screen, you can see who comprises of that the district equity leadership team. And I did receive a question about.
Can I tell board members, this is in your, for all of you that have computers. I sent an updated slide deck.
We're locked out of it though.
Oh.
So can it be bigger on the
Yep.
screen?
Okay. Let's see if I can give you access. Yeah, I'll do that. We'll see if I can give you access. Okay. There you
Yeah,
go.
and I can share,
just-
reshare all this information as well. But just for clarification purposes, the individuals who comprise of the DELT, the majority of those individuals were a part of the equity task force. We did have several individuals who chose not to continue on the equity, transitioning from the equity task force to the district equity leadership team. And so I think we had about 5 or 6 individuals who chose not to continue on. So at that point in time, I did take recommendations from different school administrators, different individuals from the central office, because we wanted to make sure that we were diversifying who was on this committee. And so one of the things we did recognize is that we did not have a lot of paraprofessionals or individuals who non-certified staffs. So we were intentional about trying to get that representation. We also wanted to make sure that despite the recommendation from the equity auditor that we left a couple parents from the task force on the committee with the ability to potentially expand and add more parents in the future. We also wanted to make sure that we had different components and segments being represented in our equity leadership team. For example, I wanted to make sure that we had someone from our LGBTQ task force on this district equity leadership team to make sure that we weren't having any kind of gaps that way as well. And so as it stands, right now we have a representative from every school building except for one. We had an individual who was asked from Wiley. That individual opted not to be a part of the DELT team, and so we are currently looking for a member from that school building to represent on the DELT team. So once we completed phase 1 back in June, then we moved into phase 2, in which the auditor started to request specific quantitative data from us. And that quantitative data is, I think it's 30 different subsets of data over 4 categories. First category is general demographics and attendance. The second is academics and support, resources, staff, and Board of Education. Then what you see at the bottom is what the DELT team actually requested additional information that we wanted to see comprised from the auditor. So acceleration programming, information regarding 504 plans, geographical data of students not attending their home center, dual language programming, and early childhood access. And so also what I will forward to you is all the different specific subsets for each the 30 that she's going to collect, so you can have a bird's eye view of what those 30 subsets of data look like. Phase 3 of the equity audit will actually take place this October. And during phase 3, we will actually have, there will be two components of phase 3. We will have the focus groups, which will happen the week of October 17th through the 21st. And then the second component of that will be the district-wide surveys that we will push out to our families, students, and teachers as well. So that's just kind of a recap of what I just told you. So in regards to the focus groups, we will have 36 focus groups in total. And this is a breakdown of those 36 focus groups. And so again, we have 36 focus groups. 14 of those focus groups will be dedicated to students, 2 to alumni, individuals who've graduated from the Urbana School District within the last 1 to 2 years. We will have 15 focus groups dedicated to staff and 5 focus groups dedicated to families. All of those, the majority of these focus groups will be based on affinity. So we will have specific focus groups for students who identify as Black, students who identify as Latinx, dual language, white, Asian Pacific Islander. We will have focus groups for students who identify as multiracial at both the middle school and high school level. The same for our staff. We will have similar affinity groups based on their ethnic background, programming that they teach, and so forth, specifically like dual language. And we will also have focus groups for our families based on affinity. So we are being very intentional to make sure that we have focus groups for our Spanish-speaking families, our French-speaking families, African-American families, and then individuals who identify with no specific affinity group, to make sure that we try to cover the gamut of all the individuals in our community. Once we complete phase 3, then phase 4 and phase 5 will be upon the back of the equity auditor, and she will complete her quantitative and qualitative analysis in the spring semester, and then hopefully be prepared in the spring to present her final report. In addition to the different phases of the equity audit, we are actually embarking, and we've already began our 9-phase equity series, professional development series. And so on opening day, we had the first equity presentation, Equity 101 and overview. And so again, because taking in all the different feedback that we've received from different individuals in our school community, we wanted to make sure that we have professional development that everyone could be a part of and access. Everyone has access to the same training versus having spot trainings here or there. This is something district-wide to make sure that we're all on the same page and moving forward together.
Hello, everyone.
And so this is
Hi,
Dr.
my
Dubiel
name
with
is
her
Yvette
welcome
Dubiel,
message.
and I am the CEO and Chief Equity Officer for Systemic Educational Equity, LLC. As you are aware, I'm very excited to support and join you in the learning journey on all things equity. We will be exploring a 9-hour series during school year 22-23. A few things to know about the series. It's not designed for veterans or novice folks on the topic. It is designed for everyone to come into the space to share, interact, and be engaged wholly on the topics of diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm very excited to be with you during the year. Every single time I learn alongside of you. As you can imagine, sometimes the conversation will allow us to explore ourselves and our identities and those of others. There's a short poem I would like to read to you. While I read the poem, you are welcome to look at the slide in front of you. Perhaps you find it serene. Close your eyes to absorb the words, or find another space to stare at. The poem is called An Invitation to Brave Space, and it's adapted from Mickey Scott Bay Jones. Together, we will create a brave space, because there is no such thing as a safe space. We exist in the real world. We all carry scars, and we all have caused wounds. In this space, we seek to turn down the volume of the outside world. We amplify voices that fight to be heard elsewhere. We call each other to more truth and love. We have the right to start somewhere and continue to grow. We have the responsibility to examine what we think we know. We will not be perfect. This space will not be perfect. It will not always be what we wish it to be, but it will be our brave space together, and we will work on it side by side. And with that, everyone, I wish you an amazing start of another school year. See you soon. Bye.
All right. So in addition to the equity audit and everything that Dr. Dubiel is doing for us as a school district, I also highlighted some key things that is coming from my office as the director of DEI. And so if you go to our equity page on our district website, you will have access to different links that I've created to try to improve some different equity initiatives moving forward in the district. So I just want to call your attention to a couple things. First and foremost, we've launched our Diversity Champion recognition form, in which we are encouraging all staff members to recognize other staff members throughout the school district, students, and any individual that are doing great things and centered around diversity, equity, and inclusion. And what we wanted to do is make sure that we do monthly recognitions of people and doing the great work. Doing the great work in our school district. And so as you see on the screen, we have 3 different categories in which individuals can be recognized in leadership, service, and education. And then at the end of the year, we want to recognize what we're going to call 2 grand champions, one at the elementary level and then one at the secondary level. We want to recognize individuals who've really been pushing the DEI initiatives forward and recognize them with a nice prize, some different swag, if you will, a nice championship belt that they can have for their collection, as well as some additional gifts, just to celebrate these individuals and all the hard work that they're doing centered around DEI. In addition to that, we've also created affinity groups, and we have an application on our district website to where individuals can apply to create and form their own affinity groups. Research shows that individuals who have this type of space to where they can build and form relationships are more likely to stay with organizations. And so, I mean, I can speak from my own personal experience working for a multitude of school districts that as a black male, I've often felt isolated and not necessarily connected outside of my particular building that I worked in. And that if I had had an affinity group to work in, they may have been more inclined to keep me. But at the moment that another school district made me feel more welcome and I felt like I could be more part of a community, then the willingness to consider leaving absolutely became more interesting. And so knowing that we are really trying to push to our staff members, we want you to create these spaces where you feel connected. We want to retain you in our school district, and anything that we can do to support you in that manner, we want to make sure that you have that opportunity to create that space that you need. Next, we've also created the Language of Inclusion Guide, a DEI glossary. This is essentially a 44-page glossary in which we try to cover every essential DEI term that individuals need to be aware of. There's a lot of terminology, there's a lot of different phrases that people may have heard of but not necessarily understand. And we think this is a great way to build common language in our school district and kind of break down some of those different barriers when you use certain terms and people may not necessarily understand what they mean. So now we have a dedicated resource that's easily accessible on our website. There is a plan to produce hard copies that we can put physically in everyone's hands. Students as well can use this guidebook, and we really think it's a great tool for communication. Building off of that, well, let me go back. Our district LGBTQIA committee also produced a pamphlet, a rights and responsibility pamphlet that we disseminated on opening day, as well as an additional glossary of terms, many of which are actually included in the one that I developed, which you can never, disseminate the same information too much. So here's just an example of the rights and responsibility pamphlet that we pushed out. And again, this is accessible to all of our students and to our staff, families, so everyone knows what their rights and responsibilities are in regards to individuals who are part of that community, and for us, as those who serve as allies to that community. And then here's just an example of what the glossary itself looked like that we distributed. Also on the website is a national calendar which highlights different religious observations in the United States of America. We understand that we have a very diverse community here in Urbana. We have a lot of minoritized religions, and it's very good that we inform our teachers, students, everyone who's a stakeholder in our community of what these different religious practices are and traditions are. So if we have students coming into our spaces who communicate to us that maybe they're going through a certain religious celebration, that we can inform ourselves and then be able to, again, build those relationships with those students and have a better understanding of what they're practicing and what they're celebrating. And so again, this is accessible on the website. There's a lot of different religions, and even as I was building it, that I learned some different practices that I had never heard of. So it was even good for me in my own education to put this together. And last but not least, in February, I will share with you that we're going to do a 21-day equity challenge. We're going to have 21 different topics, mainly centered on specific topics in education. Some of them will be pretty common, like the effects of implicit bias in education, racism. But we will have 21 specific themes and topics for our staff, community to engage in, build their own capacity. And so at opening day, I challenge everyone to stand up and accept the challenge. I think everyone in the gym stood up, and so that makes me feel good. I hope that they will be very earnest about their intentions on taking this challenge and moving forward with our DEI work. So with that being said, I will open up to the floor if anyone has any specific questions.
Board members, any questions?
I'm just looking, oh, sorry. I'm just looking online. I didn't see you had your light on. The guidebook and the glossary right now as you were speaking, and it is comprehensive and it's long overdue, and I'm really delighted that we've got this to share with our community. Thank you so much for what you've already been doing. I'm looking forward to hearing more about what's happening in the coming year.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Brian.
Thanks for your presentation. Just a couple questions to hear more about where you're at with the audit. I'm interested in the focus group composition that you had talked about, and I'm wondering how either you or Dr. Dubiel was able to get some buy-in to those groups. How are you recruiting the focus groups, and how many people are we going to be reaching with those groups?
All right. Okay.
I saw the number of focus groups, just not how many people are in them.
All right. Very good question. And let me turn. Actually, I might have it on a different. Okay. I don't have it in front of me, but I know that we cap each focus group for students at 10. I believe the focus groups for staff members is capped at 8. And for families, I believe it's 8 as well. And so, again, we've already pushed out to our staff a link on the equity page where they can go in and register to be a part of a focus group. We've already sent that information out to families as well. I'm working with building principals in order to get a good representation of students to be a part of each affinity group that we have for those focus groups. So like today I met with Principal Cooper at the middle school, and he's going to work with his admin team to make sure that the different affinity groups are represented, that they have a good core group of students. I'm going to meet with representatives at the high school either later this week or early next week to just talk about logistics and how they're pulling those different students. But I think that we will have a good group of kids. I think we'll have a good group of community members as well as staff members sign up. There's already been a ton of emails I've been receiving with eagerness to participate in those focus groups. And I think the good thing to that is even if you're not selected to be a part of the focus group, you will still have a chance to share your voice through the survey, that we will have no limitations on the survey, so everyone who wants to share their voice will have an opportunity to do so.
That's great. And so families are responding.
Yes.
That's great.
I think I've had probably more families send me emails about how to sign up than even students or staff at this point in time.
Wonderful. And maybe we'll get this when you send the 30 quantitative metrics. Yes. I was kind of wondering at what level though, like do those data come from schools, district-wide? Like what level of analysis will she be able to sort of dig in so that we know if inequities are, you know, or when inequities are uncovered, how we decide on how she decides on interventions and things like that.
So in terms of where the data is coming from, so she sent a spreadsheet for us to upload raw numbers, and I've actually turned that over to our IT department. And so I don't know if John has some more insight in terms of like that analysis part. I know a lot of the different subsets that she's looking at are like intersections between race, gender, and things of that nature. Different types of analysis, I guess we would have to have a little bit more conversation about in terms of what she's doing and what you may be looking for. But we can have that question, or we can have that conversation. But
I mean, I wasn't looking for any particular, I'm just kind of wondering if this is district-wide data.
It is district-wide data,
So,
yes.
so no, like, Thomas Paine, Wiley, like, do we have it?
It's district-wide. It's
okay,
district-wide.
so it's
yeah.
full district. Okay, got it.
The data she was asking for was mostly aggregated data, district-wide, but if we want to look into it deeper, either with Dr. Dubiel or on our own, we can disaggregate it and dive in deeper by buildings with the 5 Labs data tool that we have in place.
Okay, any other questions? I have a quick one. Are we measuring, I guess, some of the effectiveness of the training? Are there surveys of the staff basically done after each training session to give feedback to Dr. Dubiel and to our administration on the effectiveness of the training?
Yeah.
PD.
Yeah, so for the PD,
thank you.
I think anytime when you're talking about professional development for DEI is something that's very personal, and it's also professional, right? In the sense that you can present the information, but you know we want to educate our staff, you know, fully on best practices around DEI and around the different themes that we're having professional development on, to assert how invested they are into it. That's a very personal question, right? For me, obviously in my position, I'm very concerned. I'm highly invested into this space. For other individuals, it may be something that they know that they're being mandated to do, and we're hoping that they are, you know, very serious, understanding the consequences that their lack of participation or their lack of willingness to, you know, fully engage into that professional development, what it can mean for our students and for our community. But what we are not asking them right now is to assess Dr. Dubiel and her presentations. Like, we haven't pushed out to them that evaluation, if you will.
Yeah, I probably phrased it really poorly. I agree with you. This is essential work, it's a big investment for the district. I just want to, I guess, make sure that we're able to have metrics that track our progress toward an engagement goal.
Oh,
That's all.
absolutely.
Well, and one of the reasons why this was really important is we've not had any equity PD since 2018 as a district. And since that time, we've had significant turnover. So we have some staff members who were able to participate in that at that time it was racial equity training and professional development. We have had staff asking for this for the past 2 years. When are we going to continue our work? And so I think Dr. Caffey has done a great job really pushing that out with Mrs. Smith. We have to give Yvonne
Absolutely.
a lot of shout outs for her work of, just organizing the schedule. We are taking some of the collaborative time from buildings in order to do this. It's really difficult for pre-K through 12 to do something like this in the course of a year. But it was really necessary so we could have that common language, common practices. And then moving forward, since we will all have been trained, moving forward it will just be orienting our new staff, working on a professional development module that new teachers will go through as they're added in the district. So just to kind of add that in.
Thank you. Any other questions tonight? All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Caffey.
Thank you for having me.
But before we start our next study topic, I'd like to recognize Anna Seaman for running our cameras tonight. We are not live on UPTV because of a conflict with the City Council, but we're being broadcast live on YouTube, and we will be rebroadcast on UPTV at some point. So thank you, Anna, for running our cameras. Next study topic up is our summer facilities update. Randy Ashman.
Good evening, Board. Dr. Ivory Tatum asked me to give you guys a little update on what we did over the summer and kind of go over our summer working cash list that I presented to you guys earlier in the year. We completed the obsolete fire alarm panel at Martin Luther King. In doing that, we found 4 pull stations that were stashed behind the wall from the previous remodel. It's kind of neat. Not neat, but we found them, and we got them taken care of. They're actually back online now, like they should be. We originally planned to resurface and stripe the south parking lot at King, and we changed that to DPW. We felt DPW from the time we submitted this working cash request got really tore up somehow, so we moved it over to DPW to do that parking lot. Wiley Elementary, we moved to AC from Thomas Paine Gym, got that installed and working. We did a bunch of concrete work, the sidewalk out front, which is complete. And then we originally asked for some money for the gym heat, and right now we kind of found a workaround for that, so it's in-house. So that's on hold to see if it works good enough this winter. It won't be any different than what they had last year. We were just hoping to improve it a little bit. We didn't have any heat complaints, but like I said, we just want to, we found a workaround. We think it'll be pretty good, so we're going to hold on to that money for right now. Middle school, we did $220,000 in life safety roof repair. That's all completed. Cafeteria light switches were completed. We did some chiller valves, condensing pumps, all completed. Gym pads for the walls. That's currently in process, is waiting on those to come in. Door alarms, we're working with staff to come up with a good plan to install them and what types to install, rather than just putting them on every door and not having a good feel for what we need. And then the fire alarm pull stations were actually completed before the school year ended last year. Urbana High School, yep. Okay. We are on year 2 of waiting for the wrestling room doors to get repaired. We've patched them to where they work and continue to patch them so they keep working. It's not a matter of the door opening and shutting, it's a matter of being able to keep them locked when they need to be locked. Again, that's a supply chain issue. Done some flooring, and again, door alarms for the high school. We're working with staff to get that completed. The chiller valves for the high school, it's in process. We are, they work good. We're just kind of holding off on those right now because there may be another issue that we'll have to put that money towards rather than replacing the chiller valves. We've done some branding to door 10 at the high school. It's the band room. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but it's pretty nice. And then the athletic complex, some of the brick piers out there were crumbling pretty bad, and so we had Kirby and Turner do a bunch of work to those for us this summer, and we'll probably have to do about that much more next year to and a couple of the walls that are made of brick. For the warehouse and maintenance facility, we have a truck and a van that we cannot find any on the state contract, so those still haven't been purchased. Waiting on a couple overhead garage doors and a maintenance shop door that are also supply chain issues. Dr. Preston Williams, we did some flooring in room 150. Did a bunch of, completely redid the intercom system, not completely redid. We saved the speakers and reused those, repurposed those, so saved a little bit of money on the intercom system, but it's up and working. And again, we resurfaced and striped the parking lot, money we took away from King's parking lot. Yankee Ridge, we did some branding on the main entrance, the back entrance, and then the office windows. Looks pretty sharp. The bathroom remodel we planned on doing by the time we got around to getting contractors in and them having staff to actually do the work, they felt it was too late in the year to start, so we found a couple workarounds for that to get us by till next year when we'll have to do the bathroom remodels. It'll be we'll have to take up the flooring in there and redo some drains, and the water pipe and valves are all poured into the concrete. Cubby installation, we're on year 2 of this. It's still, they're being built. We changed companies, and we're having the same problem with those. We're hoping for December winter break install on those. We put blinds in a few of the classrooms where they were needed. Then district-wide, just some equipment we were hoping to get. One example of a issue that we're finding with facilities is like our auto scrubbers. We'd hope to get 7 of them for about $50,000, and those have jumped up to from $7,000 a piece to $12,000 a piece right now. So working with a few other companies to possibly do a different type of scrubber. It would be a little bit cheaper, but not much. The other stuff's been ordered or on order, and and then the Comcast building, we took out most of the asbestos in that building, so it'd be easier to put the flooring in. Well, the flooring just got laid this week, so we're good there. Some additional work we did this summer. We did a lot of painting. Leal High School, Middle School, and King got most of the painting, but we also did some painting at Dr. Preston Williams, Yankee Ridge, Wiley. Due to the cleaning companies getting a late start with being able to do the work, we helped them out by having some of our summer crew. We taught them how to do the floor waxing, and I think our facilities group and the summer crew did about 2/3 of every school, which is left 1/3 for the cleaning companies to have to do. Moved out Thomas Paine, moved Thomas Paine back in. Pressure washed the athletic complex, hauled extra furniture from buildings to storage, and from storage to buildings, and buildings to buildings. Did a lot of furniture hauling this summer. Painted the interior of Comcast, and did a lot of maintenance and construction on the Comcast and Domino's building to get them ready for the adult ed and the alternative ed programs. That's all I got.
Board members, any questions on the summer construction projects? This is kind of tangentially related, but I know that we're waiting on all sorts of labor and materials things for to finish the Comcast building. But what's the current progress on that?
The Domino's building will be ready mid-September, and then the Comcast building will probably be November before it'll be completed.
That's great. I'm really looking forward to it.
The flooring's in the building, in the Comcast building. It's been painted. Just now waiting for the fire system to be installed, that building's going to be sprinkled, and just a few other odd ends to do, but the biggest thing's the fire system.
Great. Anyone else?
Sorry, I wasn't clear in my throat to tell you to stop.
It's okay.
But yes, now that you're here, Randy, and I did ask you this at a prior meeting, but it was afterwards when it occurred to me, but could you give us a rundown just briefly on how the work crews went this summer with your cleaning? Because I know you had a big problem in the spring with getting your contracts done, and I asked you about it earlier, how the groups were doing. So what's the final verdict on how things went?
I think it's working out really good, having the individual companies taking care of just specific buildings. They seem to have a little more ownership. Like a couple of the buildings, the people that are working in the building actually have kids or relatives in the building, so I think they take a little more pride in it than a bigger company like a previous cleaner did. They haven't had any staffing issues that I'm aware of. The complaints been minimal. Maybe a missed trash can here and there, or a floor didn't get cleaned, but they've corrected everything, and so far so good.
One of our monthly meetings with the UEA leadership, and they also had positive feedback that they've been receiving from teachers, which was nice to hear. Positive feedback around our cleaning.
Thank you again for, putting in all that work last spring for the work around. It sounds like it paid off, and I'm really glad that everybody's happy with it. So thanks for telling us all about it.
Hey, any other questions? Hearing none, there are definitely calls for first-year executive and special meetings. We have 3 that have already been noticed for tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday at 6 p.m. For student discipline, and there are 2 going to go up soon for Monday and Thursday of next week.
Can I also add in about BOE lunches
Please.
related to negotiations? So I intended to get an email to the board, so my apologies, you don't have the email yet, but we do have a schedule. Lori has it there. As we prepare for negotiations, something that we've always done is we've given board members an opportunity, and I know you're busy, and I know everyone works, and so you're not expected to attend all of the lunches. So what we typically do, they're kind of like road shows where we get to go out to the schools. We have 2 board members at each luncheon. If we end up with 1, that's okay. We never have more than 2 for OMA purposes. We will go to the schools. We go during the teachers' lunch periods, and so they know when we're coming. We advertise the schedule. We ask the administrators to provide a space. Teachers bring their lunch. Board members are welcome to bring their lunches. And then it really is just an opportunity to listen. So our UEA members and non-members also will attend. We do ask administrators not to be in the space, so it is more so an opportunity for teachers to have your ear. They will come, they will share the positive things that are happening in their world, and they will also share the things that they have concerns about. So while I just sat here and said cleaning is going great, you may come to the luncheon and hear that maybe it isn't. So it is a chance for people to pretty honestly share. We are in the space as administrative team members because oftentimes board members need clarification, or sometimes the teachers want to talk about something that we are there to kind of help support them in the conversation, but we do ask the building principals not to be there. So we have a schedule. We are right now currently slated to begin negotiations the first week of November. Typically, we would be going out and doing our lunches in November and December, but we've moved that calendar up. I know there are a lot of special meetings here in the next week or two, so I know if you are not able to get time away from lunch or from your job during lunch, we completely understand that. So we're going to, I'll share it electronically, but Lori actually has a paper copy tonight. So if you know your schedule and you have it on your phone and you want to just go ahead and sign up for a couple, we do, what was I going to say? Oh, I forgot. It was something I was going to say about the schedule. I can't remember.
I would ask that, I mean, like the paper schedule, I mean, you're only gonna have 2 board members
Yes.
per time frame, but if you're available, put your name down and then we'll, you know.
Oh, I know what I was gonna say. They're mostly Mondays and Tuesdays. So, we ask the buildings to share day, you know, Mondays are gonna be hard because we have a hard time with subs on Mondays. And we definitely wanna stay away from Fridays. So Mondays and Tuesdays are most of the dates that we have, and we will go to every single building. So, if you have any questions about that?
Surely it would be good, though, to talk to the subs at
Oh,
as
absolutely.
many
Oh,
occasions.
subs will come. If
Yeah,
they're in the building, they
sure,
tend to
sure,
come
sure.
and sit and talk. So I meant Mondays are gonna be hard, days because we tend to have more absenteeism on Mondays and
Oh,
Fridays.
yeah.
So that's what I meant by the sub piece.
But also, we've worked around having more than one board member since there's more than one lunch hour for, like,
Absolutely.
the high school. I remember one year I went and
Three.
one of,
Yes.
yeah, one of us
Yes.
just waited outside in the hallway or went
Absolutely.
elsewhere in the building and then came back for the assign. So we always managed to work around it.
So I think most of the schools have at least 2 times, some have 3.
Mhm.
So like the middle school has 3 blocks, the high school has 3 blocks. So we could have 6 people go to UMS or UHS
No.
or.
It's also a great opportunity to try out the food service.
Mhm.
Oh, true.
And if I make a special pitch for Gerber School, if you've never been there, it's well worth a visit. They regularly do miracles there. They're a great place.
And they love to have business from board members, so.
Is that a school that we can do a lunch with at
Yes,
Gerber,
we
or
have a
is-
date for Gerber. Right now, they sent us a 1-hour block, so we might, if more than 2 board members want to go there, we can chunk it into two times and break that 1 hour into 2 30 minutes or something.
And is the Circle Academy included in that or not?
No, they're a private,
So we don't,
we don't go there.
yeah, okay, thank you.
And we typically don't go to adult ed because this is a negotiation roadshow. We don't have many of the teachers that are part of adult ed are not part of our union. So, yeah. But that doesn't mean we couldn't schedule, and I know Shauna was really wanting, so maybe when they move into the new space, we can set up something where, you know, board members can go over, or we have a board meeting or something in the Comcast and then walk over to adult ed or something like that. But they are not included in the negotiations roadshow because their teachers are not typically part of the bargaining unit.
Any questions, board members? Superintendent's report.
Okay. I think Paul and I moved pretty quickly through the public hearing, and we forgot to, we did have several questions, so Katie did want to just not do a presentation. She just wanted to share. I know she's been feeling a little stress and pressure around the budget. So, Katie.
Just really quickly. So Carol told me that sometimes she was ready by the study session, sometimes she wasn't ready till the board meeting. So I think the last couple of years, though, she definitely was ready by the study session. So I am not. I'm still learning my job, and it is complex, and especially this year with all of the turnover that we've had and getting back to the normalcy, kind of post-COVID. So it is, what was presented in the tentative budget in big numbers is pretty accurate. It's just I have to take this placeholder of, this giant salary increase and then spread it out over 2,000 accounts. So it is just a process that's tedious and takes a lot of attention to detail, and I'm working through it. So I will have more to share and more detail to share at the meeting 2 weeks from now. And certainly, if you have specific questions in the meantime, please send them my way, because then I can come prepared to answer your specific questions as part of the presentation. So I just wanted to make sure that you all know you always have my attention when you have specific questions, and I definitely entertain anything that you're wondering about specific to the budget. But overall, I think it's going fine. I just need to wrap a bow around it before I can share anything.
And Katie, I want to say you're doing a fabulous job. I know it is a lot, but she alluded to our turnover, and all of our new staff members don't receive their first paycheck until September 15th. So we have been continually receiving new hire paperwork. People are still being hired. Principals are interviewing even this week, and so it is really hard to get final numbers when all you have is projections and you don't have real salary or real money to put to that. So as of Friday, Katie has a better ed fund budget to go from. So yep. I just wanted to say you were doing a great job. I know Carol had very big shoes to fill, and
That's right.
You're walking in them fabulously. So don't.
Thank you. Yeah,
I think give you a chance to say something.
I think it's going just fine as well. I think it was just off schedule for maybe what people expected or were used to. So I just wanted to assure everybody, I think it really is okay. I mean, we have until September 30th to approve the budget. If there were any concerns or anything that needed to be revisited, once you see the detail with the regular board meeting, there's always the potential of needing a special board meeting. Hopefully it wouldn't come to anything like that, but, there is still time even after that regular meeting to consider the budget further.
Thanks, Katie. All right, jumping right into the report. I know our TMB member had to step out, but the CU Marching Showcase, I was going to give Michael a chance to do this slide, but he had to leave. So we are hosting our very first CU Marching Showcase. As you know, we are not offering varsity football this year, so our creative and innovative marching band leaders found another way to really showcase the talent of our students. So they are hosting a CU Marching Showcase September 20th. We will be featuring our band, Champaign Central Maroons, and the Centennial Marching Chargers. So admission is free. Kona Ice will be there to benefit all of the bands, so please come out and support TMB. We have a couple of students that we want to recognize for their academic achievement. We had a young man from the high school, Will Aline, who won this award last year, and this year we have Gabby Boyo and Kalina Onye Mary, our two high school students who are recognized for their honors from College Board. This is a National African American Recognition Award. So we're honored that we have two young people representing Urbana High School this year for that. So this will really help these two college-bound students garner additional college and scholarship awards as they figure out what they want to do next year. So congratulations to Gabby and Kalina. UMS Splash. So we are approaching our first Splash session, which starts September 19th. So for parents who are interested, this will be in the board update that goes out tomorrow. The link will be live, so families from UMS can begin signing up for those UMS Splash sessions. This past weekend, as always, not always, I guess it's our 9th annual, it feels like always, we're always hosting a soccer tournament on Labor Day weekend. So this year, our soccer team made it to the finals. Unfortunately, they lost against Central, but it is always a very well-attended event. And we host many teams who come here and look forward to that tournament every year. So they put forth a valiant effort and lost out in the end, but we're still excited about the season to come for the soccer team. At that game, we also recognized our state champion, Jackson Gilbert, who is up there on the right with Coach Faroki. As you know, Jackson won the indoor and outdoor 400-meter title this past year. He was presented his second championship ring, so we're super proud of Jackson and cannot wait to see what he does this year. Last week we shared UHS Open House, so it was a great event. Lots of students there, staff, all the clubs, enrichment activities, departments. I thought it was very well attended, so kudos to UHS for hosting Open House. Cunningham Township, the housing assistance for USD families. As you know, we have we're in an intergovernmental agreement with Cunningham Township. We have a fabulous person, Kyle, who has been working in all of our schools to really help our students who are experiencing homelessness. We have grant funds that we've been putting forward to that, as well as the township. So if you know a family who is struggling with housing, please pass the name on to our social worker. They know how to, Kyle has a space in all the schools, so they will work directly with Kyle or our school teams to make sure we help those families that are experiencing housing, whether it's short-term, emergency housing. Just please let us know, and we have funding to help them. This is Substitute Appreciation Week, and you mentioned wanting to hear from our subs. So we are really grateful for our subs. We would not have made it through the last 2 years without them. And we have several who have returned to us this year, so it's exciting to see people we haven't seen subbing because of COVID for the last couple of years. If you are interested in being a sub, again, share this link with your friends and family members because we always need more subs. So thank you to our subs for all they do. Upcoming dates, we have our very first District Parent Teacher Advisory Committee. Again, those are meetings that we notice because that is part of the school code and part of our contract bargaining unit. So if you see those come out as a special meeting, it isn't disciplinary or anything like that. It is just the advisory committee getting their work started next week. Latine Heritage Month begins next week on September 15th. We have our, Dr. Caffey referenced our LGBTQ plus task force, and we met with a large group of our Spanish-speaking staff and families, and we talked about whether we were going to continue using the word Latinx, or if we were going to, last year when we celebrated Hispanic Heritage Month, we were using all the different terms, right? And so as a collective, we pulled together a group and we made a decision that we are going to be utilizing Latine Heritage Month because it is non-gender specific. So if you see that, that is what it means moving forward. UHS Theater has Mutvash, which is a kind of compilation of talent, is returning this year on September 22nd through the 24th. Our first Staff Development Day is right around the corner. I can't believe it already. Dion's first, she's been heavily promoting the First Family Forum. This First Family Forum is virtual, so board members, of course, you're welcome to attend. We will be sharing the link. And something new that we're doing, this was something we planned to do in 2020, and we were unable to because we were remote. Bring Your Family to School Day is something that we're looking forward to. You know, we always have NAPID, and we've had other opportunities to celebrate families coming to school. So this is our chance to really try to engage families earlier in the year and not waiting until later in the year to do that. So we'll be promoting that at all the buildings as well. So of course, if families are welcome on October 3rd, board members are always welcome to visit buildings. So as activities are planned and brought to our attention, we'll make sure that those are shared out so families know what will be happening on Bring Your Family to School Day. That's it.
When's homecoming?
Homecoming is, oh, we forgot to put homecoming on here, September 26th. Remember, it isn't a Friday night homecoming because we're playing a JV season. So we've been in talks with the high school about still providing a smaller version of a parade. I don't know, we haven't finalized that detail yet. And I believe they're still planning a dance and all that. Last week of September.
Board reports. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, just a quick, kind of a shout out actually. When I was at the UHS open house, I got to talk with Kanitha Faye for a minute at the PTA,
Oh, yes, we forgot about that.
and she showed these awesome I Love CU discount cards, which I was super impressed with what they managed to pull off. And you all probably know better than I
Yes.
do who they're going to, but major shout out to them for garnering all those donations and giving them to the staff.
Angie, you've been working most closely with Kanitha. You want to share anything about that, the cards?
Every staff member in the district received one of those cards last week, and we have a form letter that Kanitha graciously is taking around that's on behalf of Dr. Ivory Tatum and the district, and taking around to businesses to see who would like to provide some sort of bounce back to the Urbana businesses. And so for the cards were September cards, and there were discounts to several places, and a lot of the Urbana businesses wanted to extend them throughout the school year. And something in addition to that, I'll just take a minute to plug, is that we're going to do some tours on the activity buses. And so I was trained to drive one of those buses, and we're going to do some tours with new staff. Yeah, it's kind of scary, actually. We're going to do some training with some new staff to take them around town, Champaign-Urbana, and show them different neighborhoods where kids are, the other schools in the district. Try to partner with some businesses to sample foods from Urbana, and I'm pretty excited about that. So I'm going to get a little headset and talk to the group. So
We have extra cards that we can give board members. I didn't even think to have you bring any.
I do have extra cards, and so I can do that, yes.
And we have
So-
posters that we're going to be delivering this week to all of the businesses. They can hang up in their business. Have you seen the kind of older Proud of You supporter posters that many of our Main Street businesses had up? So we have kind of refurbished the sign, and we're going to be delivering those this week to all of our businesses that are participating in the discount card. So thanks, Brian, for telling about that.
Any of the board reports? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're done. Thanks, everybody.